fun begins.
How's it going?
Hello.
Well, greetings, young Jedi. Hello there.
What's up, everyone? Hybrid Toy Reviews here, and today we are doing another Star Wars The Black Series ranking. Today I'm going to be ranking all of the Black Series figures that have been made for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order so far. Jedi Fallen Order is a really just legendary Star Wars game. I remember being so excited when it dropped in 2019, and I had so much fun playing it. I have completed this campaign many a time, and I just adore it. It was an amazing introduction to the character of Cal Kestis, working your way through some new planets, some familiar planets, working through all these variants of stormtroopers. It was a really, really cool story, and one that I still have a good time playing to date. So I wanted to rank all the figures from it. Now, the majority of these are from the Gaming Greats subline. I elected to just pull them from the line instead of ranking the entire Gaming Greats subline. I came up with 14 unique entries to the Black Series. I ended up not including the carbonized second sister because carbonized figures are dookie, and I ended up combining the first edition and the standard packaging for Cal Kestis and the second sister because they're the same figure, just the box is different. Like, it's not a different release. So that said, 14 unique version, or 14 figures. Let's get into it. Let's start with number 14. In spot number 14 is the Purge Trooper with the Electro Hammer. This came in a 3-pack with the Inquisitor Cal Kestis and the second sister, and this is the most recent addition to the Purge Troopers, and that's kind of where I get mega frustrated on it. This is a reuse of the 2013 Clone Trooper sculpt, which just has dog water articulation. Now, the other Purge Troopers in the line also reuse this body mold, but this came out so far after the others, and then not that long after that, we learned that they're redoing them on the new clone body. This one's frustrating because he has the Electro Hammer. It's a very physical weapon. He's always like two-handed swinging this thing, and the figure just lacks the articulation to put him in any pose other than just kind of standing there in a neutral position, waiting for your character to get close enough to attract him in the game. So it's a frustrating figure, and one that I feel is a worthy spot number 14. In spot number 13 is the Electro Staff Purge Trooper. This was the second one to be made, and this was in the earlier Gaming Greats subline before the Galaxy packaging, so he actually has a really cool purple box. I really do like how that turned out. But this guy, again, is just reuse of that old clone body. He, by nature of the weapon being a bit of a staff, you can have him use it one-handed. You can get him in some better poses than the Purge Trooper, that fit the weapon and the way that he uses it in the game. But all said, I just really think this would have been greatly benefited by holding off just long enough to, even if you just put it on the 2020 Clone Trooper sculpt, it would have been such a better figure. It's just a bit of a frustrating figure in the grand scheme of things. I ultimately just really want to see a redo at this point with the upgrades in technology and added articulation to the Clone Trooper armor sculpts. In spot number 12, you might be noticing the trend, is the Purge Trooper with the rifle. This figure was actually a unique release. This was a GameStop exclusive, and he was like the pre-order bonus, where if you bought the figure and then if you bought the game early and then also paid the extra price for the figure, you would then be able to get the figure. He was never really offered just on shelves for full price, except like then the stores got their allotment, and then whatever wasn't, used for pre-orders then had to be sold, so then they kind of were. For the first 2 weeks they weren't for sale, and then a couple of my local stores then had them for sale, and then they were gone, and that was it. They were kind of just gone. This features, again, that old clone sculpt. Very difficult to put them in any kind of cool pose. The Purge Troopers, they always use that long rifle, which is inaccurate. Also, it should have had an extra cylinder on it to be the Jedi Fallen Order version. I'm not that particular on it. The big thing for me is just the 2013 clone sculpt lacks the articulation to have him, actually shoulder the long rifle. And that's pretty abhorrent, in my opinion. In spot number 11 is the Flame Trooper. So this features a lot of reuse from the Imperial Snow Trooper. However, they did come in and give some new legs and a new helmet sculpt. He features some really nice paint on the backpack, and then the Flamethrower features a little bit of like heat staining at the end of the barrel. It's actually a pretty well done figure. Where it's let down is just in some of the limited articulation that the Imperial Snow Trooper offers. By nature of the Snowtrooper design, it's bulky, which typically translates to a hindered action figure. But that said, it's a hindered action figure, and other figures on this list aren't hindered, so I have to put them higher. However, this is a really cool figure, one that I kind of feel is generally forgotten. I don't feel like a lot of people talk about this. I still think it's a worthy enough figure to like add to the collection. It's pretty good. So, all said, from here we're really getting into the figures are alright range. In spot number 10 is the Rocket Launcher Trooper. This is a stormtrooper with a pauldron and a rocket launcher. You see them all over the place in the game. They shoot rockets at you, and you either let them blow you up, or you dodge them, or you force push them back sometimes. They were a really common mob, and one that I do feel is worthy of having in the line, even if it is just a bit basic. This is the 2020 Mandalorian Stormtrooper sculpt, which I feel is an excellent choice. It's way better than using the old Stormtrooper body. The rocket launcher is a very well done accessory. The one thing that kind of leaves me scratching my head is they gave this guy a First Order pauldron. It's slightly different than the Imperial style pauldron, and I just look at it and I'm like, why? This could have been done right. So anyway, very minor frustration, but still, it's inaccurate, so I'm going to talk about it. In spot number 9 is the Scout Trooper. This is reuse of that original Scout Trooper mold that we've never had updated to date. It still has pretty okay articulation. He features a harness with a power cable for that electric staff baton he has. It's not a full-blown staff like the electric staff Purge Trooper has. It's a shorter version, and it's got a little electric effect at the end, and these guys are all over the game. They can parry your lightsaber. They're really, really fun. And then he features the little pistol. They never used the pistol in the game, but they gave it to you so you could fill that holster on the boot. I do like that. And just generally, it's a kind of just one of those like cannon fodder type troopers. You fight a lot of them in the game, and that means that he's rather essential. If you're going to be covering basically every trooper in this game in figure form, you gotta have this one. This is one of the iconics, and they did a really good job on him. In spot number 8, I have the Second Sister. This is the first release. It features a rubber cape, and it really hinders the articulation. It was the same in the standard packaging or the first edition packaging. The first edition packaging would at least be cool, because if you keep it in the box. But it featured this big rubber cape. It made her a little bit back heavy. Combine that with just smaller feet. This figure's always tipping forward or back on me. It's very frustrating. Otherwise, it has pretty standard articulation for figures of the time, being in later 2019. Just that rubber cape really makes a traffic cone of it. It's very frustrating. And the helmet, it's nice to have the helmeted sculpt, of course. I feel like this figure's definitely let down by lack of an unhelmeted head sculpt, but that just is what it is. It's an alright figure at the core, but that rubber cape just really, really kills it. In spot number 7 is the Second Sister from the Amazon 3-pack. So everything that I said about the prior figure, the figure itself stands. It is a repack of that figure. It has alright articulation from the era it came with. It would have been nicer if it came with an unmasked head sculpt. However, they came back and they gave her a soft goods cape. It makes the top heaviness completely go away. She's very fun to pose at this point. Certain things are a little dated by virtue of being a 5-year-old sculpt, but it's subjectively drastically improved by that soft goods cape. Considering that it's a cape that doesn't go all the way to the ankle and doesn't really fully wrap, it's just kind of meant to hang behind her, being soft goods is always the way to go on that kind of thing, because it's always going to lay exactly the way it was supposed to anyway, and they did a really good job on it. This repack in the 3-pack, there we go, is a much needed upgrade to the figure. It's the best they can do, shy of redoing it at this point. In spot number 6 is the Night Brother Archer, which is bizarre to me that I'm putting it this high up the list, but then I actually thought about it a little bit, because both Night Brothers that were made in the line were incredible peg warmers. They sat at GameStop for years. but there's really nothing wrong with the figures, and they're not in the game. If you are on Dathomir, you are fighting Night Brothers. And, this is... The Archer is a recolor of the Warrior, which is further up the list because we haven't talked about that one yet. And, from the waist up, it was a newer sculpt. They had made the sculpt for the shirtless Darth Maul publishing figure. The legs are reused from the original Orange Line Darth Maul from 2013. But somehow, despite having those older parts below the waist, the modern articulation above the waist combines with it in a way that still gives it really good articulation all said. It's a little clunky in places, but you can put this in any pose you want from the game. I mean, it's not bad. I honestly have to say, I think it was just not a super iconic, eye-catching design, and that's why they ended up sitting so much. And yeah, I really have no explanation for why it peg-warmed so hard, other than it's just not what we wanted. In spot number 5 is the Night Brother Warrior, and again, for all the same reasons that I just talked about with the Archer, it's objectively a good figure at the core. Very dated leg articulation, but it still kind of worked. It was just an insane peg warmer. Anytime you'd go to GameStop, you'd see 5-10 of this guy, 5-10 of the Archer, and they were just sitting, but any pose you want this guy in from the game, he can do. It's objectively a really good representation of what you see in the game. I really have no reason for why this is here. Was such a peg warmer. Like, it's objectively, it's worthy of being this high on the list. It is a nice figure. In spot number 4 is the 13th Battalion Trooper. In the game, we see these in the flashback to the night of Order 66, and it's the only figure from the game that really fits that time period. It'd be nice if we'd gotten a Taro Japal or a Padawan Cal at this point, but we just haven't. But this is a repaint of the 2020 Clone Trooper mold, but something about it just looks really good. I love the design. It's very crisp. I think the 2020 Clone Trooper sculpt, it's not as good as the 23 sculpt, but it's objectively still a better sculpt than the 13 sculpt. So it had to be higher than the Purge Troopers ultimately. But it's just a really good representation of what's seen in game. And it's not the most iconic Legion, but it's still one I ended up with a few of because it's just a really cool Clone Trooper. It's kind of just here for rule of cool, I guess. In spot number 3 is the standard issue of Cal Kestis, or the White Box First Edition. Same figure. This figure's actually pretty good. There's a couple of things that are starting to date it. The double pin knees, by virtue of being a 6-7-year-old figure, is it's just like, it's showing its age. But the likeness was pretty good for the time. It's a photoreal. It's not a perfect Cameron Monaghan, but the sculpt has potential. We'll talk about that. He came packed with BD1 and the broken pommeled lightsaber that we saw in all the promotional material. That's all he really needed to come with. He's rather fun to pose. I had a lot of fun posing this guy, and yeah, it's still one that I really, really like. It's how I made him look the entire game. I'm not a poncho fan, so as soon as I was able to start customizing him in the game, I took the poncho off and I ran this look for every playthrough I've ever played through at this point. It's just iconic. So yeah, I like this one a lot. In spot number 2 is the Cal Kestis Deluxe Build-Up Pack style figure. This was a GameStop exclusive a little while ago. This features Cal Kestis in the orange version of his outfit, which is one of like the 5 variations you can get in the game. He comes wearing the Braca blue work poncho over top of that, and then it features a slightly improved photoreal on that head sculpt, a red BD1, the blue broken lightsaber, and then the repaired double-bladed lightsaber with green blades, and then it comes with a bogling, which is a really cool accessory, and the green Jedi holocron, which ultimately became the focus of trying to get throughout the game. This kind of filled in the rest of the bases. When the first figure came out, it was before the game was out, so it's like you can't give them too many things without having spoilers in it. And so this kind of, having come out sometime after the game dropped, was able to give us some of those parts that we kind of wished that we'd gotten in the first go-around. And that's really, really cool, ultimately. It really has everything you could ask for from it, and I have nothing negative to say on this, other than I don't like customization in video games personally. Like, I think it should be there for those that do. And so, like, for me, I like the double-bladed hilt. I don't like the green blades. I wish, because the blue blade for the single hilt fits the double-bladed hilt, so I wish they'd given us an extra blue blade so I could rock the double-bladed blue staff as it should be canonically. So that was a frustration to me, personally. But it's still a really fun pack. And, in my opinion, the number one Jedi Fallen Order Black Series figure is the Inquisitor Cal Kestis look. This features a couple of reused parts from the Grand Inquisitor figure, and then the head sculpt from the first edition standard Cal. And it features a much improved photoreal likeness, and then the double-bladed lightsaber hilt with some red blades. You know, this was like a neat thing in game, like Cal getting a vision of what his life could be like if he had joined the Inquisitorius. It was very short-lived. You didn't really like wear the skin in the game or anything. I guess you could after completing the game. But it was just kind of a thing where I was like, man, you know, it's neat, but I don't need an action figure of it. But when it came out, it was just so far after some of the other figures were, and the Grand Inquisitor was still a somewhat new modern figure. So he's actually got some really good articulation. The photoreal likeness on the head is much better than the prior Cals, which were still plenty passable. They made spots 1 or 2 and 3 on the list. It was just a really oddly good figure for what it was supposed to be, and I feel like it's worthy of the number one spot on the list. So, that's it. That is my ranking of the 14 unique figures that Black Series has made for Jedi Fallen Order. What do you think? Am I completely off my rocker? Have I said anything based? Tell me in the comments below. Let's have a fun conversation about it. I like talking toys, and I like talking toys of all of you, so please don't hesitate. Let's have a discussion about these. What is your favorite figure from Jedi Fallen Order? Check back next week. We're going to be going through the 15 unique figures that they have made for Jedi Survivor, another very good game, an excellent sequel to this game, so it had to be the sequel to this video. Thanks for listening to me yap for about 15-20 minutes. I'm going to go work on another video now, so go check that out. I appreciate your viewership. I'll catch you next time. May the Force be with you, and we'll see you later. Bye.